Oliver Evans had always felt a deep connection to the earth, its rhythms and textures shaping his career and passions. As a landscape architect, he found joy and purpose in transforming ordinary spaces into breathtaking landscapes. Vermont, with its rolling hills and vibrant seasons, was the perfect canvas for his art. It was here, nestled among the lush greenery and sprawling forests, that he and his wife, Claire, decided to build their life together. Claire Bennett, a spirited and creative high school art teacher, shared Oliver's appreciation for Vermont's tranquil beauty. Her days were spent igniting the imaginations of her students, guiding their hands in bold strokes of color and form. Together, they imagined a life far removed from the frenetic pace of the city, a life filled with quiet moments and the simple pleasure of watching the seasons change. They chose a charming, if somewhat weathered, farmhouse on the outskirts of a welcoming community. The house needed work, but they saw potential in its bones, much like the canvases Claire presented to her students, blank and waiting for transformation. Their evenings and weekends were spent renovating, painting, and planting, each seed and nail a testament to their commitment to their new life and to each other. As their home took shape, so too did their place within the community. Oliver introduced innovative landscaping ideas that complemented the natural beauty of Vermont, while Claire became a leader in local art initiatives, her projects often bridging the gap between nature and artistry. Their efforts were not just about building a life, but about becoming integral parts of a community that valued creativity and sustainability. The serenity of their surroundings seemed to mirror the peace they found in each other's company. With each passing day, Oliver and Claire wove their dreams into the tapestry of their shared life, believing they had found their forever in each other and in the verdant landscapes of Vermont. Oliver and Claire quickly became fixtures in their Vermont community. Their shared passion for beauty and expression translated into active participation in local events and initiatives. Oliver's landscape designs began to shape more than just gardens. They influenced the way people interacted with their environment, turning neglected spaces into welcoming green havens that encouraged community and connection. Claire threw herself into her role beyond the classroom by spearheading art projects that involved students and residents alike. She organized outdoor painting classes, mural projects on public buildings, and art exhibitions that showcased local talent, including her own vibrant landscapes and abstracts that reflected the beauty of their adopted home. The couple's integration into community life enriched them both and deepened their relationship with their neighbors. They hosted gatherings at their home, where discussions often revolved around how to enhance communal spaces or promote local arts. Oliver's talks on sustainable gardening practices became a popular feature at the community center, drawing crowds eager to learn how to better care for their pieces of Vermont. Claire's initiatives at the high school gained recognition as well, bringing in funding for arts education and creating opportunities for students to engage with the wider community through art. Her projects not only brightened public spaces but also built a bridge between generations, with older residents mentoring young artists, sharing stories and skills that wove a richer communal tapestry. Together, Oliver and Claire had not just found a new home but had become integral to the fabric of their community. Their efforts complemented each other, blending Oliver's architectural expertise with Claire's artistic vision. The life they were building was deeply connected to the land and people around them, fulfilling their dream of a meaningful, grounded existence. As they lay in bed at night, listening to the soothing sounds of nature that drifted through their open window, they often talked about future projects and the impact they hoped to continue making. It seemed they had crafted the perfect life, one that balanced personal passions with community service, set against the backdrop of Vermont's serene landscapes. Their love for each other and for their community was evident in every project they undertook, every plant they nurtured into growth, and every student they inspired. In this peaceful setting, Oliver and Claire found a rare harmony, seemingly immune to the chaos that often plagued more urban existences. Here, in the quiet of Vermont, they believed they had everything they needed. The culmination of Oliver and Claire's efforts and dreams came in the form of a community garden project, a venture that promised to bind their love for nature and art even closer to the heart of their Vermont community. The project, situated on a once-overlooked plot near the center of town, was envisioned as a sanctuary for both people and wildlife, a place where art and nature could coexist and enrich each other. Oliver drew up the plans with meticulous care, envisioning winding paths lined with native flowers and benches crafted from reclaimed wood. Each section of the garden was designed to offer a different sensory experience. One area would be filled with fragrant herbs and flowers to attract butterflies, another would feature a small pond to support local amphibians, and a third would offer a quiet, shaded nook for visitors to sit and reflect. Claire, meanwhile, organized a series of workshops for community members of all ages. She wanted the garden to be adorned with artworks created by local residents, believing that everyone should have a hand in beautifying the shared space. She led classes on mosaic making, sculpture, and garden painting, her enthusiasm infectious, drawing even the most reluctant participants into the creative process. As the project progressed, the community garden became a symbol of collective effort and creativity. People from all walks of life contributed. Retirees shared their gardening wisdom, teenagers designed colorful murals, and children helped plant seedlings. Each contribution added a layer of depth and personal connection to the garden, transforming it into a patchwork of the community's talents and energies. Oliver and Claire worked side by side, their relationship strengthened by their shared commitment to the project. On weekends, they could be found at the garden from dawn until dusk, Oliver tending to the plants and Claire putting the finishing touches on a ceramic mural that depicted the Green Mountains in vibrant hues. The project not only brought the community together but also seemed to weave Oliver and Claire's lives more tightly with those around them. It was a joyous endeavor, and they often stepped back to admire the evolving beauty that mirrored their own growth and connection. However, amidst this idyllic collaboration, subtle shifts began to emerge in their dynamic. Claire became increasingly absorbed in her art projects, often spending evenings at the local studio or attending art shows in nearby towns. Oliver, deeply engrossed in his architectural designs, initially viewed her absences as a natural extension of her creative expression. Yet, as weeks turned into months, Oliver felt a growing sense of disconnection. The conversations that had once flowed so easily between them were now brief, functional exchanges about schedules and daily logistics. Claire's vibrant energy seemed redirected towards her art, leaving Oliver to wonder about the balance they had once so effortlessly maintained. Despite these brewing concerns, Oliver chose to focus on the positive impacts of their work, pushing his worries to the back of his mind, attributing the change to the ebb and flow of creative passions. Little did he know, a conversation with Claire's colleague would soon bring his latent fears to the forefront, challenging the foundation of trust and understanding they had built together. As the community garden flourished, becoming a vibrant hub for local gatherings and artistic expression, Oliver's sense of pride in their joint project was tinged with an undercurrent of unease. Claire's growing absences were becoming more frequent, and her explanations more vague, citing an increased commitment at school and new art initiatives needing her attention. Oliver, absorbed in the final touches of his landscape designs, initially dismissed his discomfort as nothing more than the natural fluctuations of a busy life. However, the small voice of doubt in the back of his mind grew louder with each hurried conversation and missed dinner. The emotional gap between them, once barely noticeable, was now a chasm filled with unspoken questions and simmering anxieties. One evening, as Oliver stayed late in the garden setting up an irrigation system for a newly planted herb spiral, he received an unexpected visit from Mark, a fellow teacher and friend of Claire's from the high school. Mark's usually cheerful demeanor was replaced by an awkward seriousness as he approached Oliver among the rows of budding plants. "Oliver, can we talk?" "It's about Claire," Mark started, shifting uncomfortably on his feet. Oliver straightened up, wiping the dirt from his hands with a rag, a knot forming in his stomach. "What about her?" Oliver asked, trying to keep his voice even, though his heart raced with a mix of fear and suspicion. Mark hesitated, clearly struggling with his conscience. "I think you should know. I've seen Claire around town a few times with someone else. They seem close. More than just friends, I think." The words hit Oliver like a physical blow. His first impulse was to deny, to defend Claire, but the certainty in Mark's voice and his own nagging doubts aligned too uncomfortably. "Are you sure?" Oliver managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I wouldn't mention it if I wasn't. I thought you should know, from someone who cares about both of you." Mark replied, his eyes full of genuine concern. The conversation that followed was a blur to Oliver. Mark offered a few more details: sightings at a cafe, a local gallery, always the same man, always looking too intimate for comfort. With each word, the foundation of Oliver's trust crumbled a bit more. After Mark left, Oliver remained in the garden long after the sun had set, the cool night air doing little to soothe his heated thoughts. The plants around him, once a source of peace, now seemed to mock his naivety. How had he not seen the signs? Had he been too absorbed in his work to notice the changes in Claire? The night grew darker, and Oliver felt a profound loneliness envelop him. The garden, their project, had been a symbol of their unity and creativity. Now, it felt like a stage set for a play where he had missed his cues. The trust and partnership he had so valued seemed tainted, overshadowed by the looming specter of betrayal. As he finally made his way back to their empty house, Oliver knew a confrontation was inevitable. The next conversation with Claire would be decisive, the future of their relationship hanging in the balance as precariously as the dew on the petals of the morning glories winding up the garden trellises. The following morning, Oliver awoke in a house filled with silence. The usual sounds of Claire moving about, her morning routine once a comforting backdrop to the start of his day, were conspicuously absent. She had mentioned another early morning workshop, but now each word she had said in the past weeks was suspect, tainted by doubt. Oliver sat at the kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee, waiting. The house, once a sanctuary filled with love and creativity, now felt like a stage for an impending drama for which he was reluctantly cast. His heart heavy, he rehearsed the conversation in his mind, each scenario more painful than the last. When Claire finally walked through the door mid-morning, her smile faded as she saw Oliver's solemn expression. "Oliver, what's wrong?" she asked, setting down her bag, her tone a mix of concern and wariness. "We need to talk, Claire," Oliver began, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "It's about us, about what's happening with us." Claire took a seat opposite him, her eyes searching his. "What do you mean?" she asked, though her voice betrayed a hint of defensiveness. Oliver took a deep breath, the weight of his next words pressing down on him. "I know about him, Claire. About the man you've been seeing." His words hung in the air, heavy and irrevocable. For a moment, Claire was silent, her face pale. Then, slowly, she nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "Oliver, Why, Claire?" Oliver interrupted, his pain surfacing as anger. "Why would you do this to us?" Claire looked away, struggling with her emotions. "I was lonely," she finally said, her voice a whisper. "You were so wrapped up in your projects, and I felt like I was just drifting alongside you, not really a part of your life anymore." "That doesn't justify an affair," Oliver replied sharply, his sense of betrayal deepening with her admission. "I know, and I'm so sorry," Claire responded, her voice breaking. "It started as just a conversation, a connection I thought I was missing with you. But it went too far. I never meant to hurt you." Oliver shook his head, the information a bitter pill to swallow. "Can we even get past this, Claire? Is this what we've become?" Claire reached across the table, her hand hesitating in the air before retreating. "I don't know, Oliver. I want to make this right, but I understand if you can't forgive me." The room was thick with tension, both of them caught in the gravity of the moment. The future of their marriage, once so full of promise and possibility, now hinged on what came next. "I need some time to think," Oliver said finally, standing up. "I can't sort through this right now." Claire nodded, tears streaming down her face as she stood. "I'll stay with my sister tonight. Call me when you're ready to talk." With those words, she left, the door closing softly behind her. Oliver was left alone, surrounded by the remnants of their life together. The pain was sharp and deep, cutting through him like the chill of the Vermont winter outside. He knew the coming days would require difficult decisions, but for now, he allowed himself to feel the full breadth of his heartache, mourning the fracture in their once unbreakable bond. In the days that followed Claire's departure to stay with her sister, Oliver found himself wandering through their home, each room echoing with the remnants of their shared past. The walls, adorned with Claire's vibrant artwork, seemed to mock his current despair with their lively colors and bold strokes. The garden, once a labor of love they nurtured together, now stood as a testament to their fractured union, with autumn's chill beginning to claim the last of the summer blooms. Oliver spent his days in a daze, his landscaping work the only distraction from his spiraling thoughts. Yet even there, among the structured beauty of his designs, the chaos of his emotions found a way to surface. The plants he tended no longer offered solace. Instead, they were a reminder of the intricate plans he and Claire had once laid out together, plans that were now as tangled as the undergrowth he trimmed back. As the reality of Claire's betrayal settled in, Oliver's initial shock gave way to a deep-seated anger mixed with profound sadness. He replayed their last conversation over and over in his mind, each iteration seeking answers he knew he might never truly find. Why hadn't he seen the signs? Could he have been more present, more engaged? The questions were relentless. One brisk morning, driven by a need to escape the confines of his thoughts and home, Oliver drove to a nearby forest trail. The hike was long and strenuous, the path winding through dense woods that opened up to spectacular views of the valley below. Physical exertion, he hoped, might dull the sharpness of his inner turmoil. As he walked, Oliver reflected on the years he and Claire had spent building their life together. Their relationship, once full of laughter and mutual creativity, had slowly given way to routine and, apparently, unspoken grievances. He thought about Claire's words, her admission of loneliness and feeling overlooked. A part of him knew he had been absorbed in his work, perhaps at the expense of their connection. But did that neglect justify her actions? Could they have mended the growing gap between them if she had turned to him instead of someone else? Lost in thought, Oliver barely noticed the sun beginning its descent, the light dimming around him. By the time he headed back, the forest was bathed in the soft glow of twilight. The beauty of the moment, the way the fading light played through the leaves, reminded him of the many sunsets he and Claire had watched together. The memory was bittersweet, filled with a sense of loss for what had been and what might never be again. Returning home, Oliver felt a resolve beginning to form amidst the chaos of his emotions. He knew he couldn't rush his decision about their future, but he also understood that he couldn't dwell in the limbo of indecision for too long. He needed to confront what had happened, to fully understand Claire's perspective and his own feelings before they could even begin to think about reconciliation or separation. That night, Oliver sat down at his desk and wrote a letter to Claire. Not to send, but to organize his thoughts, to articulate his feelings without the immediacy of confrontation. It was a way to voice his pain, his doubts, and his hopes for understanding, whether they decided to part ways or to try and rebuild the trust that had been shattered. Days turned into weeks, and Oliver continued to wrestle with the complex emotions stirred by Claire's infidelity. The letter he had written sat untouched on his desk, a testament to his ongoing internal debate. Each line he had written echoed the tumult in his heart, a mix of sorrow, betrayal, and a faint glimmer of hope for resolution. With time, the sharp edges of his initial pain dulled into a persistent ache, a reminder of what was at stake. He began to focus more on his landscaping projects, using the physical labor as a catharsis for his emotional turmoil. His work became more than just a profession. It was a sanctuary, a place where he could transform his feelings into something tangible and controlled. One particularly clear morning, as Oliver pruned a set of overgrown shrubs, he realized the act of cutting away the dead and excess mirrored what he needed to do in his own life. The process of evaluating what to keep and what to let go became a metaphor for his journey through healing. Just as he nurtured the growth of the plants around him, he needed to nurture his own growth, regardless of the outcome with Claire. This newfound perspective led Oliver to finally reach out to a therapist, something he had considered but resisted in the weeks following the confrontation. His sessions started as a space to vent, but soon evolved into a deeper exploration of his feelings and desires. The therapist guided him through exercises to help understand his emotions, not just about the affair, but about his identity and values both within and outside of his marriage. Through therapy, Oliver began to see that his happiness could not be solely tied to his relationship with Claire. He explored aspects of his life that had been neglected, rediscovering old hobbies and interests that brought him joy independently of his marital situation. He started attending a local photography club, capturing landscapes and nature scenes, which brought him a sense of peace and accomplishment. Meanwhile, Oliver also made an effort to reconnect with friends and family, whose support became invaluable. Conversations with his sister, who had gone through a similar experience years earlier, provided not just comfort but also practical advice on coping and moving forward. As Oliver nurtured his personal growth, he also prepared for the possibility of discussing reconciliation with Claire. He knew that any attempt to rebuild their relationship would require new foundations based on transparency and mutual respect. To this end, he drafted a list of conditions that would need to be met, including ongoing couples therapy and open communication about their individual needs and expectations. One late afternoon, feeling more grounded and clear-headed than he had in months, Oliver decided it was time to meet with Claire. He called her, his voice calm and resolute, inviting her to the community garden they had once cultivated together. It was a fitting place to discuss their future, surrounded by the growth and beauty that had been born from their collaboration. As he waited for her at the garden, surrounded by the fruits of their shared vision, Oliver felt a sense of closure. He was prepared for whatever path lay ahead, whether it led to a renewed partnership or a respectful parting. He had come to understand that healing was not just about mending what was broken but about embracing the growth that comes from life's unexpected challenges. As Oliver awaited Claire's arrival at the community garden, he observed the surroundings that had once been a joint labor of love. The late afternoon sun cast golden hues over the vibrant flowers and lush greenery, a peaceful setting that belied the turmoil of the past months. Each plant and sculpture held memories of collaboration and shared dreams, making it the perfect backdrop for their pivotal conversation. Claire arrived, looking apprehensive yet composed. The initial greetings were tentative, a reflection of the distance that had grown between them. They took a slow walk along the garden paths, surrounded by the fruits of their earlier unity, each step bringing them closer to the heart of their discussion. "I wanted to meet here," Oliver began, his voice steady, "because no matter what happens between us, this place represents something beautiful we created together. It reminds me of what we're capable of when we work as a team." Claire nodded, her eyes tracing the familiar landscape. "It's hard to be here, knowing everything that's happened," she admitted. "But I'm grateful you chose this place. It gives me hope that maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to move forward." Oliver took a deep breath, the prepared points he wanted to discuss clear in his mind. "Claire, these past weeks have been some of the hardest in my life, but they've also given me a lot of time to think. About us, about what I want, and what I need in a relationship." Claire listened intently, her expression a mixture of sadness and understanding. "I've been doing a lot of thinking too," she responded. "I made a terrible mistake, Oliver. There's no excuse for what I did, and I deeply regret the pain I caused you. If there's a way for us to start over, to rebuild what we've lost, I want to do that. But only if you believe it's possible." Oliver looked at her, the honesty in her eyes stirring a mix of emotions within him. "I want to believe that, Claire. But trust, once it's broken, it's not easy to rebuild. I've come to realize that if we're going to try, we need new foundations. This means transparency, communication, and possibly therapy together." Claire nodded, her agreement immediate and firm. "I'm willing to do all that. Whatever it takes. I miss you, Oliver. I miss us." They continued to discuss specifics, laying out their expectations and the changes they would need to implement in their relationship. It was a long, often difficult conversation, but necessary for both to express their feelings and concerns openly. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the garden, Oliver felt a cautious optimism. The road to reconciliation would be challenging and fraught with potential setbacks, but he now felt equipped to face those challenges, knowing that Claire was willing to work alongside him to restore their bond. They concluded their meeting with a tentative plan to start couples therapy and spend more time together, re-engaging in joint projects like the garden that had once brought them so much joy. Walking Claire to her car, Oliver felt a weight lift from his shoulders. They had faced their issues with honesty and courage, and while the future was uncertain, there was a glimmer of hope that they could turn a new leaf. much like the seasons change in the very garden they had nurtured. In the weeks following their conversation in the community garden, Oliver and Claire took tentative steps towards reconciliation. They began attending couples therapy, a space that allowed them to explore their feelings and misunderstandings in a structured environment. These sessions were challenging, often emotionally draining, but they also provided crucial insights into their relationship dynamics and individual needs. As they worked on their communication, Oliver found himself slowly opening up to Claire again, sharing his day-to-day experiences and thoughts in a way he hadn't in months. Claire reciprocated, her openness and consistent effort gradually rebuilding the trust that had been eroded. They learned to listen to each other more attentively, to give space when needed, and to support without conditions. Parallel to their therapy, Oliver and Claire resumed working together on the community garden. This joint endeavor, which had once symbolized their harmonious partnership, now served as a testament to their commitment to heal and grow together. As they tended to the garden, planting new seeds and nurturing the existing plants, they found metaphors for their own growth and renewal. The garden thrived under their renewed partnership, blooming more beautifully than before, mirroring the gradual healing of their relationship. Outside of therapy and their shared projects, they also began to integrate more shared activities into their routine, rediscovering and creating new traditions. Saturday mornings were spent exploring local farmers markets, while evenings saw them attending concerts or simply enjoying quiet dinners at home. These moments, small yet significant, wove a new fabric of intimacy and camaraderie between them. During one therapy session, their counselor remarked on the visible progress they had made. "It's clear that both of you are putting in the work needed to turn a new page. It's not just about getting back to where you were, but building something stronger and more resilient," she noted. Oliver and Claire nodded, recognizing the truth in her words. Their relationship was not the same as before. It was evolving into something deeper, fortified by the trials they had overcome. One crisp autumn afternoon, as they walked through the garden, Claire stopped beside a newly flowering bush. "Do you remember planting this?" she asked, a smile touching her lips. Oliver chuckled. "Ido. You were convinced it wouldn't bloom this season." Claire's laughter rang out, clear and joyful. "I'm glad I was wrong. It seems to be thriving, just like us." Oliver reached out, taking her hand in his. The simple act, once so commonplace, now held a depth of meaning. "We've come a long way," he said, squeezing her hand gently. "Yes, we have," Claire agreed, leaning into his side. "And we'll keep going, keep growing." As they resumed their walk, the garden around them a riot of colors and scents, Oliver felt a profound gratitude for the journey they were on together. It hadn't been easy, and challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, but they were facing them as a team, stronger and more connected. Months had passed since Oliver and Claire's decision to rebuild their relationship. The community garden, once a symbol of their unity, had flourished into a vibrant gathering place for the town. Its success was celebrated one sunny afternoon with an opening ceremony that drew a crowd of locals, each eager to see the fruits of the couple's labor and the community's collective effort. As Oliver prepared for the ceremony, he reflected on the transformative journey he and Claire had undertaken. They had weathered a storm that might have shattered less resilient bonds, and now they stood together, not just as partners but as individuals who had grown stronger and more self-aware. The garden was abuzz with laughter and chatter when Claire joined Oliver by the entrance, her hand slipping into his as they greeted their neighbors and friends. The air was filled with the sweet fragrance of blooming flowers and the sound of a local folk band that added a festive note to the celebration. Mayor Thompson stepped forward to give a speech, commending the community for its support and highlighting Oliver and Claire's vision and dedication. "This garden is more than just a place to sit and enjoy the beauty of nature," he said, gesturing around at the lush greenery and art installations. "It's a testament to what we can accomplish when we come together, to the resilience of the human spirit, and to the healing power of community and nature." As the mayor concluded, he invited Oliver and Claire to cut the ribbon. Cameras flashed, and applause filled the garden as the ribbon fell, officially marking the opening. Oliver and Claire exchanged a look, a silent acknowledgement of their journey and the milestones they had achieved. After the ceremony, as guests mingled and explored the garden paths, Claire pulled Oliver aside to a quiet corner by a small water feature they had designed together. The sound of gently flowing water created a serene backdrop for a private moment. "Today was incredible," Claire said, her eyes reflecting the myriad colors of the garden. "I can't help but think about how close we came to losing all of this." Oliver nodded, his arm wrapping around her shoulders. "It was a close call, but going through that, it made us stronger, both individually and together. I'm proud of us, of how far we've come." Claire rested her head against his chest. "Me too. I'm so grateful for your forgiveness and for the chance to start anew. This garden, it's not just a project, it's a symbol of our new beginning." As the afternoon faded into evening, the garden transformed under the glow of string lights, casting a magical hue over the gathering. Oliver and Claire remained there together, watching as people laughed, conversed, and celebrated around them. They had not only rebuilt their relationship, but had also strengthened the bonds within their community. The event wound down, and the last guests departed, leaving Oliver and Claire alone in the garden they had nurtured back to life. Hand in hand, they walked the paths, now familiar yet filled with new promise. The challenges of the past were behind them, and ahead lay a future rich with potential. As they paused to watch the sunset, the sky a brilliant tapestry of oranges and pinks, Oliver felt a profound sense of peace. Together, they had turned a page, stepping into a chapter that was yet to be written but promised continued growth, healing, and shared happiness.